Hey, this is Good Mom, Bad Mom podcast.
Hi,
This is Danielle, the bad mom.
and this is Jennifer, the good mom.
Today, we're going to be talking about generational trauma.
We all want to give our children a better start than we had, but what happens when we're still carrying the weight of our old childhood wounds?
So, what is generational trauma? It's the passing down of emotional wounds, behaviors, and coping mechanisms from one generation to the next.
And I feel like it even kind of goes a little bit deeper than that. Like, I think they've done some more studies that, like, from a DNA perspective, like,
Yeah.
you carry some of your mom's, your grandma's
Yeah.
trauma as well, too.
Well, and then you get the spiritual girlies all activated as
hmm
well.
And for like past lives
Oh, yeah.
and like regressions and things like
Yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
all the stuff and your karma that you're having to essentially pay out this
Yeah.
life and all that good jazz. Yeah, it's all
All
about
of
it.
it stems from unresolved pain caused by past experiences such as abuse, neglect, poverty, discrimination, addiction, and so many more, I'm sure.
And can shape the way someone raises their children sometimes without realizing it. This is hurting my feelings already.
Yeah.
Like this is not.
this we have put out this episode for a while. One, because we weren't quite ready to share on my part at least. And
Yeah.
then two, it makes us look in the mirror
Yeah.
more than we had time to today.
Well, or, like I guess purposely look in the mirror,
Yeah.
on purpose. Who the hell wants to do that?
Yeah. So, how does it show up in parenting? This one I feel like really is more me than you, I think.
What?
Emotional suppression, being taught not to express feelings because previous generations had to tough it out.
Okay, tell me more about that.
I will shove my feelings down to make someone else feel better or like give them time and then I think we joked about it in at the beginning of the year when I was like, I'm giving up managing other people's emotions this year, and then like went into a spiral because I didn't know how to manage mine because I've been
Yeah.
so busy managing everybody else's and making sure that like nobody was upset or everybody was having a good time, and it like solely fell on me to maintain the peace. It felt like in some areas. And then just even being a mom, it's just like I have to force myself to let them go through hard.
Yeah.
Like even simple things like they don't want to go to school today because they just don't feel like it. And I'm like, oh, well, just take a break. But then in my brain, it's like, I'm not teaching them. Like, there's definitely sanity days for sure. But I'm also like, there's got to be a fine line between like discipline and rest, you know?
Yeah. Well,
I kind of
so
went sidetracked, but
no, I don't think so. So I had told you, well, I guess I can relate to it because I understand it on my part.
hmm
And so now I'm kind of wanting to talk about it again to see how,
Okay.
if it's changed at all. So, like, people pleasing,
hmm
it's the most selfish thing that you can do because you're actually not trying to please the other person.
Yeah.
Truly, what you're trying to do
Regulate
is
yourself.
regulate their emotions
Mhm.
so they will in turn regulate
Yeah.
yours. And so that's why, that people pleasing is toxic,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. How do you feel about that now?
Feel like I'm dealing with so much more anger than I expected.
Yeah.
Because I think now that I'm kind of sitting back and let people being who they are, like the way I'm being treated is different, like just in general, because I'm showing up different.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, on them, that's not their fault. I decided to make a change and didn't give many people warnings.
Do you have to?
Not necessarily, but like it is jarring to some people when you're like, oh, they've always done this. And then all of a sudden, that's not the habit or the response anymore, you know? So then people are like, what's wrong with you? What's changed? And so some of that is kind of annoying, of like, it will not annoying, but like frustrating in the sense of like, okay, I've stepped back, but instead of them like internalizing me, like, oh, maybe like she's trying to do something different, like maybe let me reflect and do something different. It's almost more like I'm the problem now because I'm not showing up in the same way.
Do you think that people actually think you're the problem, or do you think you're a problem?
I think I am trying to read between the lines, and that is the conversation that is reaching out.
Is it
True or not?
is it important to you
I
to
think that's where the anger is coming from because it's like, how dare you?
mm,
I've been here this whole time
yeah.
and I want to do something for me
Yeah.
for 30 days and
Okay.
I'm the problem. And I think that's where the anger.
Yeah.
And then it's just still like, okay, well, who do you want to be? Because I do want to be someone soft and someone that can be very feminine and like, peacekeeping. And then like there's just all this rape. And so figuring out what that looks like in my day to day
It
is,
just seems like your dark feminine's coming out. So if you're going to awaken your full feminine, you're going to have your dark feminine as well.
yeah, she just has to be like, she's got to get out all the anger before she can settle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because then she's just doing the same thing everybody else did to her and bleeding on everybody else because she's angry.
So how do you do that?
I don't know. I'll let you know.
No.
Like, TBD.
My unresolved pain and is caused from a lot of these things,
Yeah.
like abuse.
I think we can both agree that very young we were overly sexualized.
Very much so.
And I think it would be hard to find someone our age that was.
Yeah, I think yeah.
that was how we were all raised. Was
It's kind of the era.
yeah,
Yeah. But abuse, neglect, poverty, discrimination, not so much. I mean, kind of, but no. I think discrimination came later on for me. Where it was more of, it became a money thing where I didn't come from money, so you know, that type of thing. And then of course addiction is always in the background for me. Thankfully, I'm very hyper aware of addictive qualities and things like that can come up for me. Thankfully, it's, I mean, for 10 years it was cigarettes. Now it's a vape, which is, to me, I don't care what other people have to say about it. It's an upgrade. But I can, for instance, working out my generational trauma really started at the divorce. I mean, that was a major beginning of it. And so I had the year of hell during my during the divorce, where I was also in a car accident. I was hit head on, lost my job. I was laid off. The company went bankrupt.
Pandemic?
6-figure. Well, no, the pandemic was a year before.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
But
we were just in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like, going through all that, you were literally isolated as well.
We still had, you know, just the remnants of it. But yeah, and so I was in this car accident and everything, and how many stories do you hear of, like, because my back, it was my spine that was injured, and I had about 4 surgeries. And I refused to take pain medication. I did ice, heat, and ibuprofen because of my family's history of addiction. Because it would have been they were throwing muscle relaxers, painkillers, all that kind of stuff at me.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would have been easy. It would have absolutely been easy. But I've never been like a big drug user anyways. I mean, I drank for the first time in like senior year spring break, and that was terrible, which Alizé is what I decided. Yeah, right. It was aggressive.
It's aggressive.
And like drugs and, you know, things like that. I think more than anything, part of my generational trauma, I think, has kind of saved me on that part, for the fact that I'm such a control freak. I don't like how drugs make you feel out of control. And so that's where, I mean, but that's the only thing that is, I think that it's my control issues that have kept me. So that's where it's hard for me to work out my generational trauma, because a lot of my coping mechanisms from my generational trauma has actually saved me from going down to the actual bottom.
How do you feel like it shows up in your parenting?
I disassociate when, you know, like, not having my kids all the time. It's very difficult for me because it's when, well, I'm a mom, but also too, you got to think of, like, that was my worst nightmare. My mom was constantly taken from me when I was a kid. My mom was constantly absent. My mom was like, to where, like, sometimes I wouldn't be able to talk to her. I wasn't even on the same side of the freaking country as her. And, you know, up until a certain age, I mean, it was like 8. In my mind, I was responsible for my mother, you know, I was more of a mother to her. So I mean, again, it's like a repeat of I can't be with my child. You know, and as fucked up as that sounds, I mean, but it is what it is. And so I disassociate. And so I'm trying to work on that. So when I have my girls, one thing that I do try to do is, here recently, I've been trying to stay more in the present. So, like going and making plans to do things like, okay, we're going to go and walk. We're going to go, do this and that and the other. And I'm asking them questions about them and I'm trying to stay engaged with them as much as possible. But I have found that it's really hard because I think that that's kind of where my pushing people away and cutting people off comes from,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, well, they're going to leave anyway. It's
Yeah.
all temporary anyway.
Yeah.
And so as a mom, it's very difficult for me to stay present
Yeah.
in my time with them.
I can understand that from not from a perspective of your children, but like when James leaves to go for
Oh,
training,
yeah.
like I have to not be his wife the week before or I won't survive it. You know what I mean? Like not in the sense of like, okay, we're divorced. I'm pretending I'm a single woman. Like
Right.
none of that, but like you have to push yourself in a little bit so that you can function.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's a better way to explain it, where it's to be able to function, this is how I have to do
Well, and
it.
it's not even like, and disassociating has like a really bad connotation and it 100% is not always healthy. But I kind of think of it of like I'm going to my safe space. Like, does
Yeah.
that make sense? So like
Yeah.
no one hurts me in here. And again, not super healthy to make that a habit all the time. But like you said, like I know when I'm doing it and I'm like, okay, hey, you know that you're doing this because you're afraid of an emotion or a feeling or, your kids being upset or hurt or whatever it is, something out of your control,
Yeah.
and that's typically what it is. Like that's what
Right.
triggers the disassociation is I can't stop it. There's nothing I can do. And so then you kind of have to like sit back in your safe space. And but at the same time, I feel like that's also where you plan. That's also where you strategize. That's also where you come up with like, okay, this is now the game. So I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a terrible thing, like you said, especially because you pay attention to it and you're like, oh, I'm starting to disassociate because I'm giving my kids back to their dad in an hour and I don't
Yeah.
want to deal with it. I don't
Yeah.
want to. And so you're like, instead of that, let's go for a walk. Like, let's really end on a bang.
Yeah.
And I love that energy to it and kind of changing that narrative in your head of like, oh, I have to disassociate because like all these feelings are terrible,
Yeah.
which they are. They're
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
But then kind of turning it around and being like, how do we make this a little less terrible?
Another thing is, for me, I think that I ended my codependency with the divorce. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was definitely codependent on my husband.
Yeah.
But I have realized with me, which I know that you have, I go to extremes. It's like there's no middle, and that's where I'm at, where I'm trying to find the balance, because it's like another, I don't know if you'll call it addiction, but it was like it was just, the women in my life had multiple marriages. Nobody
Yeah.
was just married once,
Yeah.
and usually it was men who were terrible, and actually, fun fact, the legend in my family is that my great 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 grandmother was a Cherokee princess. And it's documented somewhere that her father, who was the chief, was ticked because she married the devil with the blue eyes, so a white man,
Yeah.
and put a curse on the lineage. And it's funny, not in a ha-ha way,
Yeah.
but it's funny that ever since then, all the women in my family have had horrific relationships with men. And so for me, now I don't know, I can't really speak to, I think that that's kind of the thing in my family, is to dissociate, because I can't sit here and say, well, I talked to my grandmother about this and she told me this is how she got through it.
Yeah.
I talked to my aunt or talked to my mom. Like I don't have anyone that actually, so I may be speaking for them and not meaning to,
Yeah.
because I just didn't see personally that they were doing the things that I'm doing now.
Yeah. As in like trying to change the narrative or
Just changing it for at least my girls,
Yeah.
so like my rule of not having like if I have to be dating somebody for a year before they meet them, that's part of me trying to break that generational curse, because it's a revolving door of people while I was growing up, and things like that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
That's so, and I grew up with such an unhealthy way of thinking of relationships and men and all this kind of stuff, and then like you said earlier, highly sexualized and all that kind of stuff. So it was just, and so
already we were like set up to look for things in the wrong places.
Yeah.
And I don't say that in a way of like a victim mentality, but there are extenuating circumstances that change trajectory of your life, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said at the beginning because it kind of resonated with me. The extremes.
Yeah.
Like we're great or we're all the
Not
way
okay.
on the ledge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's no like, hey, we should sit down. And I feel like that resonated so much with me at the beginning when I was like, I don't want to do the people pleasing, but I also want to be like just a soft feminine person, but I'm
Yeah.
just so angry. And I'm like, I'm with you on that. Like there's no just like, can we have a good day?
Yeah, right?
Can
Yeah.
we just have like an even day?
Yeah. I mean, and well, so and I think that that's kind of where my self love comes from,
Mm-hmm.
because when I start feeling myself that way, like the guy that I'm dating now,
Mm-hmm.
when I start feeling panic about that for about the full year that it's been,
Mm-hmm.
anytime that an alarm was going off in my head, I immediately was going outward and
Like lashing out?
no, outward as in trying to fix it outside of me when it was always something that was in me.
Can you explain that? Are you saying like you tried to fix him or like
No, like if something was going on, like instead of me sitting there and being like, okay, how do I feel about this?
okay.
What and then what do I want to do about how I feel? You
Mm-hmm.
know, what is the action that's gonna help me in this situation and all this kind of stuff? It was more of a like, oh my God, I don't want to be alone, or I don't want to be left, or
Mm,
you know, so how can I fix that?
yeah.
And I can't, and I shouldn't say that it's been the full year, because I think it's been off and on, and you've probably seen it where it's like I have these spurts, and I think that they're getting more and more now. But I had these spurts of like, oh my gosh, this panic, and like, oh my gosh, it's gonna start crumbling, and you know, all this kind of stuff. And now it's like, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like either way, like I hope that it works out. I want it to work out. But if it doesn't, I'm gonna be okay. And when
Yeah.
I am not able to get myself there into that mentality, that's when I know that I need to back off, period.
Mm.
Of and so that's where I'm trying to find the balance, because when I back off from everybody, as you
Yeah.
well know.
We got to do an episode about attachment styles soon
Oh
because that would
yeah.
be like a good one to go in because you basically are explaining how you went from anxious attached to secure.
Yeah, well, and I'm what, disorganized is what, because I'm also
Mhm.
I'm
We both are very much like match energies with people. So I feel like an anxious attachment with you might be a avoidant with somebody else. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
so it just depends on
It
the
depends on
type
the
of
situation.
relationship, the type of person.
And
Yeah.
well, in this situation, I mean, because I can go from avoidant to attach, or
Mhm.
to anxious,
Yeah.
avoidant to anxious, like that, with the same
Mhm.
person in a span of an hour.
Yeah. You
You
just gotta
know?
like get it out and calm
Yeah,
yourself down. Yeah.
and I think, but it's kind of, and I keep having this, like, I don't know, it sounds dumb, but it's almost like, you know, when you're trying to start your car and your car won't start, and it's like putter, put,
Yeah.
put,
Yeah.
put, you know, kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
thing. And then it's like, okay, it's gonna go. Okay, no, it's not. Okay,
Yeah.
it's gonna go. Okay, it's not. You know, and
Yeah.
so I constantly feel like I'm in that
Push and pull.
yeah, to just try to find balance, because I am aware that I will go to extremes, you know, one way or
Mhm.
the other. And instead of just finding this middle ground, and that's kind of where I'm at in my journey of trying to heal this generational trauma.
Yeah.
But emotional suppression, I think that that's where you and I are very different, because for me, it's not. It is not showing so much emotion. It's more of, okay, you know, oversharing, you
It's
know,
like
things like
I
that.
have to work on showing emotion and you have to
Yeah.
work on less emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it
Which is
is.
so funny because I feel like we talked about this a lot. Danielle has this theory that I attract mean girls.
You do.
And I don't know if it's about my generational trauma, but I think you kind of hit the nail on the head is that I don't want to have to stand up for myself. So I surround myself with people who will fight to the death
Well, that's
for
interesting.
me to be
Yeah, go
protected.
ahead and heal yourself and
Yeah.
see if you're going to get rid of me.
No, but
See,
I'm just saying, like, look, like, even my husband, you and my husband are very similar when it comes
yeah.
to how people treat me.
Yeah.
And then, like, I've kind of surrounded myself with these very like, my core group is very overprotective, like,
Yeah.
burn the world down for me. And I feel like you saying that out loud kind of put it into perspective of, like, I'm letting them manage my emotions.
Yeah, and I think that again, I have the opposite where
Yeah.
I'm trying. It's very hard for me because I don't.
Well, but I will say though, it's something that you recognize within yourself because right before you fly off the handle, now you call me and you're like, talk me down.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I
let
can
me
at
say
least
it
do
out
that.
loud. So,
Yeah.
and then if I'm like, he said, what? Then you're
Yeah.
like, okay, that's all I need to buy.
Yep. Yep. And so, but to your point though, where you surround yourself with people who would,
Or
stick up for you.
not necessarily mean, but like not afraid of confrontation
Right.
on my behalf.
Where I have surrounded myself with people that are not going to stick up for me behind my back.
Interesting.
Except I haven't done that anymore. Like I'm
Yeah,
past
yeah, yeah.
that. Like
I was just about to ask you. I was like, do you feel like I do that? Because I feel like I talk
no,
about you to
no,
you.
no, yeah, no,
Like, what is
no.
wrong with you
But
today?
again, but if you notice now from like where I was in the divorce to where I am now, how many people do I have around me?
Well, and I am going to pat myself on the back on that for like 5 seconds, and then I'm going to give you all the credit for the rest of it. But I feel like when I showed up and was like, hey, buddy, and how are you? You're so cute. Boop. And
Yep.
you were like, no. Like immediately, no.
Immediately no.
But then like I didn't need anything from you.
Yeah.
Which was super new to you.
Yeah.
And was just like almost gave you kind of like anxiety
Yeah.
on me because you're like,
Yeah.
why is she here?
What
I don't
is
understand
it?
what she wants from
Yeah.
me. Like I got nothing for her.
Well, because that's typically what it is. Somebody,
Yeah.
people want something from me. And so then it's just,
And I was much more like, no, I'm gracing you with my presence. You're welcome.
and
Congratulations.
that's all I really wanted.
Yeah.
That's all that I really wanted from somebody.
If
I
you
didn't
just
know
didn't know
it.
how to ask. Yeah.
Well, I didn't because I didn't know.
It existed.
Yeah, and I didn't know that it was something that I could ask for.
And I think that is a big part, even like teaching our kids, teaching our like, because I mean, like, look at it from like a social experiment perspective.
Yeah.
Like people with tattoos, like walk in the church and everybody's like, whoa. But like, what if you change that narrative? Because like I wasn't someone you wanted to be. Like we're opposites. Like, I mean, I think anybody listening can understand that we have a lot of like our core values are the same, but the way we operate is on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so meeting people that don't fit into all your boxes and like expanding your horizon and just even teaching your kids like hey, part of the being a part of life is having trauma. Like if you're alive, you've got some type of trauma.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that word is thrown around a lot.
I do too. I don't think that there's another word for it, but I don't look at it, I have such a hard time when people are like, oh my gosh, this is, oh, I wish I could give an example.
Are we talking about like victim, like being stuck in like that victim mentality?
Like,
you're a martyr.
I mean, essentially.
Yeah.
And even though what you're trying to do is good and great and, all this kind of stuff. And so my outlook on that, and I know it sounds harsh, but is that everybody has their own path. We've all been brought here for a certain reason, for whatever it is. And, with me, with my spirituality, for me, it's things that you needed to work out in different lives. And like we're, constantly ascending to be more godlike and, things like that. But to do that, what is it supposed to be easy all the time? Is it supposed to be, I feel that God sends you people to help navigate you to the right. Like, I don't think that he just throws us down here and is like, yep, good luck. I think that there is, that he sends you people in situations and things to help you grow from that. But you have to go through the hard shit.
There's something, and I wish I could remember it word for word. But it was like, I asked God to make me strong, so he gave me challenges.
Yeah.
I asked God to give me beauty, so he showed me sacrifice or like things like that. You know what I mean? Like, and it just goes through things. And then, just to keep on the same path of like the challenges of life and things like that. When it comes to your generational trauma, like what you're not changing, you're choosing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if there's something you don't like, and it again, people are like, yeah, it's not that easy. It really kind of is. And I don't mean that in a like brush it off kind of mentality, but like just in this change that I've been doing, it's not easy. It's not like habit, like so let's put it into perspective like me. So I'm trying to be less of a people pleaser. I'm trying to stand up for more for myself and things like that. So I am trying to put in perspectives and change the way I respond to situations. Or if there's some, and I mean, like, I'm talking, I didn't get my right Starbucks drink and had to tell someone to change it.
Like, how did that go?
It was awful and I hated it. But like even simple things. So there's that voice in the back of your head that pops up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's telling us all these lies and all these thoughts and things like that. That voice is going to keep showing up. It's your choice to listen to it. And we have gotten to the point where like, I will literally like that voice will pop up and I'll be like, no, like so loud in my head to stop the train of thought. And there's nothing else you can do. It's going to keep coming up until you make a new road and to make a new pathway.
Well,
So it's like that.
I think for me, because so again, same thing, but I just
do it backward.
do it not I do
She
it in
does
a
it
different way.
left-handed, guys. She's left-handed. I'm right-handed. She does it left-handed.
No, it's more of where I've learned not all your thoughts are true.
Yeah.
I
Your
mean, they're
brain
just
will lie
not.
to you.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about like, we'll just change the thought problem, just change that, and everybody's like, you're not trying. Like immediately my brain goes, you're not trying. Because I am sitting in my head screaming no at the top of my lungs to change my thought pattern, and it's working.
Well, and I have recently, I have somebody in my life that I'm pretty regularly saying, you want something different, you want a different life, you want a different situation, make different choices. You have to make different choices. You want to keep living this that you're doing, then live life, do you like it's totally
like the
fine.
Same concept of like, my husband gets on me all the time, if I'm like, oh, I like need to like tone up or do something like that. Like my husband is very practical, and the statement is going to make a lot of you angry.
It already made me angry.
I promise you, he's just very practical and logical. And it's like, well, if something's bothering you, then change it. And if toning your body is something that you want to do, then go to the gym. He's not telling me that I'm fat or need to go to the gym. I told him I had a problem. He gave me a solution.
He's trying to fix it.
Yeah. And he's just like, well, if that seems pretty easy. That seems pretty logical. You need to tone your body. Go to the gym. That's where you tone your body. And for him, it's just like 1 + 1. And for us, it's like, yeah, but then it's like the time, and it's all these things and all these excuses.
It's the discipline. It's just discipline.
But again, it's that you are the one who is in charge of you.
You make your life.
And I do this with you sometimes too, of where like you'll be like, yeah, but I should. And I'm like, you did what you did.
Yeah.
If you chose not to choose discipline that day, then you chose not to use discipline that day. You did what you did. Like, don't excuse yourself. Don't back out of it. Like, don't create this narrative in your head, because I'll do this. I'll be like, and literally before we started this podcast, she had to like talk me down for 30 minutes about being a failure because I can't cut a lemon.
It was an amazing video. I hope that you all enjoy it, because man, that was hilarious.
And I'm like, I should just give up. I should go find something else. And like literally like these are the thoughts I've been working on stopping, and I'm just letting them in today.
Yeah.
There's no discipline today.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening today. But tomorrow, back at it. You know what I mean? Like even 30 minutes from now, I'm like, no, we had our pity party. Let's stop it. Like, because you're just going to create the habit again. Like the habit is easy to slip back into. You're the only person stopping you.
Well, you have to make the habit to make the change. Yeah. And it's not going to be overnight. It's something that you are going to have to work at.
And I will say, I've been like doing this since January, and like the voices, that a voice is like softer. Yeah. It's not gone. Yeah. I don't know that it ever will be, because when you start going down those train of thoughts, like all of them are ready. They've already been written. You just got to bring them back up, Yeah. So we got so sidetracked.
Well, not necessarily. I think it all is the same, but so how it shows up in parenting. So there's one thing, and I am still, I would say, embarrassed about it. So with me being highly sexualized and all that kind of stuff as a kid, and then just knowing, I lost my virginity at a horribly young age. And so I'm hyper vigilant about that with my kids, of like, you don't need male attention. You don't need, you're perfect the way that you are, like all the things. Right. Well, there was, we were at a birthday party, and again, it was during the divorce. So I was not mentally sound by any means. And we were at a pool, and the girls were, in the pool and all that kind of stuff. Well, there was a group of teenage boys that were there, and I'm talking about like 16, 17, 18. And girls started throwing their ball out of the pool in their direction on purpose. And I had said something, to my oldest whenever I'd seen her do it. I, was just like, hey, and I told her and my youngest, I was like, hey, let's not do that. I was like, they are older boys. Yeah. It's not appropriate, and all this kind of stuff. So my youngest kept on. And I flew out of my chair, and I mean, I was yelling and was like, get out of the pool. This is absolutely not how you're gonna I mean, I embarrassed her. I was embarrassing myself, but I was embarrassing her as well, at this birthday party and all this kind of stuff. But in my head, it was an emergency. It was an emergency because I know what that leads to. My oldest is the age where it started for me. And so like I'm already at this like heightened, I mean, at the time I just knew it was coming, and it was like I have to nip this in the butt right now. And again, control,
Yeah.
there's a better way to control. There's a better way to, I mean, and not even necessarily control, but that's where mine bleeds out with parenting, is like
Your own fears.
my own fears, but it comes out as instilling fear in them.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the healthiest way.
Somebody said something to me the other day, and I thought it was really interesting. It said, your daughters will not speak to themselves how you speak to them. They will speak to themselves how you speak to yourself.
Yeah. Which is why anytime that I'm in the mirror, anytime that I'm putting on makeup, things like that, I never say anything bad about myself.
Yeah.
And which actually has been good, because it makes me not say anything bad about myself when my kids aren't with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally believe that,
Yeah.
because
I don't feel like I talk down about myself and my kids. In fact, I would say that I'm borderline cocky.
yeah.
But I would say that kind of gave me an eye-opening relationship with my own mother. Of like, I don't, like, she holds me on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I don't hold me on a pedestal. I talk to myself how she talks.
My mom holds me on a pedestal, but I'm at a different stage with my mother than you are.
Well, have always been on a different stage.
And so, but meaning like for me inside, where it's like the pedestal that she holds, ooh, Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but the pedestal she holds me on means nothing.
I would agree with that to some extent on my mom. And I don't think either of our mothers put us on a pedestal maliciously.
No. Yeah.
But
no.
I agree with it to the extent of like, I don't see it. And I know that's different for you, because it doesn't matter that she's on you're on a pedestal, because her opinion isn't what's weighing that pedestal for you.
Yeah, especially because, and I talk about this a lot with you with parallels, where, my biggest flex for a long time was I was married. I'm the youngest grandkid. I had, my own house. I had my own car. I had, marriage. I had, children, all this kind of stuff. And nobody else did. I mean, and then they started getting married and, all the things. But I had my shit together. I had a career, like all these things. I think for a long time in the back of my head, a part of that was a motivator of, don't turn out like them. Don't turn out, it was that kind of thing. So when the divorce came, I think that had a lot to do with my mental break. It was because immediately where my brain was congratulations, you're your fucking mother.
Oh.
And that's where it went. So then it was, and then even the car accident, because my mom was in a horrible car accident, and, with drugs and, all these kind of things, and like alcohol and drinking and all this kind of, so you can imagine the pressure that I put on myself immediately. And then it was, then I didn't want to date, but I did want to date. And then it was like, well, do I want to date because I'm addicted to men, and that attention and, all this kind of stuff. So then I took 3 or 4 years, where I wasn't, going on dates and, all this kind of stuff, and worked it out. And so now I'm at this place finally where do I want, the man that I'm with right now, I want him, but I don't need him.
Yeah.
And I worked really, really fucking hard to get here.
Yeah.
And, and so I do have to check myself a lot when I'm sad or, whatever, if he and I have a disagreement or what have you in this relationship. It's one of those where I do have to take myself aside, do the check of, where are we at? Where are we at here mentally? Are we going to be okay? Because if we're not okay, then he needs to go away completely.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head for me, like, because that pedestal feels like pressure for me. It feels like expectations that are not my own.
Yeah.
And so it feels heavy.
Yeah.
And that's why for me, like, from that perspective of it's like, it feels like I'm living someone else's life on that pedestal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to be me, even if I don't know who that is yet.
Yeah. Where like,
or at least don't give me, like, don't set me up to fail.
Yeah. And my mom always says to me, she said, even as a little girl, anytime that you put your mind to something, like, you accomplished it. She was like, even when people were just like, there's no way in hell that she could do it. Like, she would, I mean, like, when I was a kid, I had something wrong with my legs. I had to wear special shoes, like all the things, you know, because my feet were turned in really bad. The doctor wanted to have this surgery that put me in a wheelchair for months and, or, you know, whatever. And I would never run like other kids and stuff like that. And in high school, as a competition cheerleader, doing backflips and all this kind of stuff, you know. And so my mom always says that and I think that you said it really well, but she says, you know, I know that things are hard, but you always make it through. You know, you set your mind to something. And she was like, you've always done it. You've always got it done. And it's one of those that puts the pressure on me. So the voice that kind of births is, yeah, but what if this time it doesn't?
Oh, really?
What if this is the time that it's not going to?
I struggle with that in my faith because there's a verse that's like, pray. I'll have to look it up. We talked about it today and I cannot remember what it was like, pray believing you've already received. And I'm like, I can't do that because what if you don't give it to me? Then I'm going to be mad at you.
I'm starting to get to where I understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, because I look at it as manifesting. And so, and I look and I'm like, where is it? More times than not, it looks different. It always looks different. I always do end up getting it, but it's
never what you
it's not what I imagined it would be. And that is God taking the control from me. Like I'm not in control.
This is kind of like a side thing, but it kind of goes back to like the pressure and the expectations. But it's something that I've noticed about myself recently is, what do you feel when you accomplish something?
Let's move on to the next. What's next?
Like, I feel no accomplishment. It's just like I checked off a to-do list.
No,
I'm literally about to graduate from college, and I'm like, okay.
Since you got your fucking degree and you know the damn thing.
And I'm like, it's nothing. It means legitimately means nothing to me. It's just something else I have to do. But that's what I'm learning about myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, it's the expectation that you're just excellent. You know what I mean?
Whose?
Like, that's what I've programmed myself to believe. And now we're coming back from it just because my health on its own has sidelined me so hard.
Yeah.
And like, that's where my mental breakdowns are coming, is that I'm like not capable anymore and not capable. And you tell me this all the time of like, and I'm going to swear, I'm so sorry, Mom, and every aunt that listens. Like, your half-ass is someone else's full ass.
Yeah.
And it's like, I understand that, but it's still half-ass to me.
Yeah.
And it's not my best.
Yeah.
But at this point, like where we are in my health journey, it's like, I'm giving you everything.
Yeah.
This is my best right now. And that has been really hard for me mentally because I know it's not.
Yeah.
Like, I know what my best looks like. And just go back to the lemon video.
It was so good though. And that's what I'm saying of like, that's what I mean of like, that was not what you expected when you went into it.
But I
think it's great.
But
it's hilarious.
Like the realest version of me you're going to get.
Yeah.
And I think that is the struggle, is because I'm showing you me.
Yeah.
Instead of the version of me I want you to see.
Right.
And so like, if you don't like her, like that feels really heavy to me. That feels like somebody being mean to me, or you know what I mean? Like, it sounds like
I think that's where I influence you, is because I do not feel that way.
And that's where I kind of brought up of like, and I don't want to say mean girls, I'm going to say protectors.
Yeah.
Of like, I unknowingly surrounded myself with all these like
assertive
pit bulls.
Yeah.
Yeah. To recheck me, of being like, so if they don't like you, what? I'll find their address? Like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of your mentality, like to bring me down of like, and I'm like, now the world is ending, and you're like, and
then what?
And then I get so mad at you because I'm like, get to my level, like this is world ending. And you're like, it's really not.
It's just, well, you do the same to me.
Yeah, but sometimes yours are world ending, so it feels different. Like, I'm having a midlife crisis over not being good at TikToks, and you are actually having like problems, which you also yell at me for, because you're like, if you feel something, then you feel something, and that's valid.
That's all right. And that's, because again, I go back to like what I was saying before of like, you know, feeling empathy for somebody or feeling empathy or sympathy for somebody, but also realizing they're on their own journey.
Yeah.
You may be the bright spot that God sent to that person at that time, but their journey is their journey, you know. And like for me, and it doesn't make it more important than someone else's. So like, and I hate it because people will say that to me too. I mean, not just you, where they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm sitting here talking about all my problems, and you got like, and I'm like, mine aren't more important than yours though. Like mine are just mine, yours are yours.
But I don't think that is the general conception worldwide.
Because people are assholes. That's why.
Absolutely.
I mean, like that's what it is. People are just assholes.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know what it feels like to be
Yeah.
in. So it may be, you know, world ending for you. But just because you can see where I'm coming from mine, because
It's more
they're
like physical.
it's more material things.
Yeah,
I'm a fucking
material.
Taurus. I
Thank
mean,
you.
this is what it is. It's just
I was like,
ugh.
physical wasn't the word, material was. Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. Like this
Mhm.
is part of my journey, you know. And the whole thing is you know, again, my spirituality. Like I know that my purpose is sovereignty, like of but also being with someone at the same time but still keeping my sovereignty. That's something that I've never been able to do.
Yeah.
And so in the
And when
relationship
you
that
say
I
sovereignty, like staying true to yourself.
yeah, like not
Not
conforming to somebody else's standards for me.
Mm.
Where I'm in a relationship with somebody to be with that person, not to conform to what they want me to be, but
Yeah.
because they truly accept me for who I am and I truly accept them for who they are. And I keep those boundaries up to where those lines don't get meshed.
Yeah.
And that has always been a big problem for me because of abandonment issues, all that and neglect and all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
and then just your attachment style as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here. Let me help.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I mean, another thing, financial trauma. I mean,
This is very different for us.
yeah.
Too. Yeah.
And so it's, you know, I didn't grow up with money. I didn't grow up with all the bells and whistles that life can give you. I've had spurts of it in my years of living. I've had
Stability.
I've had stability and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, the biggest, I guess, the biggest part of my life where I had financial security was when I was in sales there for a while because I mean that is kind of what did give me the strength to leave a marriage I wasn't happy in because I thought I can do this. Like that gave me the courage to or the knowledge of I can do this.
Yeah.
It was just I didn't realize how fucked I was mentally. So when I did actually go through with it is when I broke down and everything else broke down.
Well, and then that kind of leads us into the next part of it. Like, do you feel like you can heal in an environment that hurt you? Because I feel like you in that instance could not have, like, you had to fully remove yourself.
I wouldn't have been able to get where I'm at now if I was still married. There's no way.
So then
I would have repeated this life over again, to be honest. And I'm not being funny. Like I would not have solved anything that I needed to come to this life to solve if I was still married. And that is not a reflection on my ex-husband by any means. That is my personal journey. That unfortunately he
got to ride along.
Well, that he had to also endure. My children are also having to endure this. But the best version of me was not going to be while in that marriage.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had to hurt everybody that I loved most in the world to get there. That's a sacrifice I never was given.
I feel like I would disagree with that.
Why?
Because your family.
Yeah, they were.
Like, if anything, you kind of mitigated some peace.
I did.
Like, you had to fight for it for sure.
Yeah. And and we're getting there now is the thing. And so it's like the who I am now. I saw that before and that's why I knew I can do this. You know, I just didn't expect to lose my job and the house and get in a car accident and like all this and my grandmother to pass away, you know, all and going through this horrible divorce all in 1 year. You know, I mean, it was awful. And so
it was so bad. Her and I ended up having to take a break.
Yeah.
Because I was literally like brushing my teeth sobbing because I was taking on your emotions and I didn't know how to. And I mean, like that had nothing to do on you because I was obviously trying to be there for you.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, like we should have used that as your example because I was trying to do the right thing and be there for you.
Yeah.
But it was your path you had to walk.
Yeah.
And at some point I had to be like, I don't know what's happening, but like this is starting to really affect me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to step back and kind of let you fall for a minute.
Yeah. Was that the first time that you ever did that for somebody?
I think like to put to the point of like, this is actually really offending me physically.
Yeah. Was that the first time that you ever actually did that?
I legitimately felt like, I think you can ask James about it. I don't even know if he remembers it, but I think I was like, I'm a horrible person. Like, I fully never expected you to speak to me after that but I like didn't know what to do. But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where it was just like, I know you need me and I'm here. I need right now.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of brought us closer in the end because we could be honest with each other about it.
I think that that's kind of what happened with my other friend that I'd had since I was 17 is she couldn't take it.
Yeah.
She couldn't handle.
It was hard.
It was,
I mean, like,
it was one thing after another, and there was just, and it was things that were out of my control.
And I wasn't even living it.
Yeah.
And was like getting stomach ulcers. And
yeah. And I remember the turning point. I had just had a surgery on my back and there was something going on with you. I don't remember what it was because I don't want to sit here and say this and like you all think that Jennifer abandoned me because that was absolutely not what it was. There was something going on, but I had these surgeries and I don't have family. I don't have, and I didn't have a marriage, or a husband anymore, all this kind of stuff. And I had kids that I had to, take care of. But I had to have this surgery. And I also was working as a bartender and I couldn't take off of work. I was able to take 2 days off. Anytime that I had the surgeries, I could take 2 days.
Like do it like on a Friday.
Well, that was the thing is that I was scheduling these surgeries on days where I was having 2 days back to back off. I wasn't even scheduling it off. It was just so, but I had to take myself to the surgeries. I had to sit there and wait until I could see straight. And they would let me drive and I had to drive and I always ordered a pizza before a large pizza at Old Chicago. Love it. And I would eat off of that for 3 days and I had no one. I set myself on the couch, up beforehand and everything. I sat there and I remember it was the night that I think it was my first surgery. And I sat back and I thought, I am completely alone. I am complete. It was the ultimate abandonment. And it wasn't, and I don't mean that I felt abandoned by you. It was just, I felt abandoned by the world where it was just like, I had nobody and nothing. And I sat there and I remember crying and ugly crying. I was like slobbering on myself and like all the things. And I remember laying on the couch and thinking, I heard this voice that said, get up, just get up. And there was something in my body that just got up and I had dogs that I had to take care of. Thankfully had my kids were with their dad that week, but I just heard a voice that said, get up, because at that point where I was on that couch, I was never going to get up again. I was never going to get up again.
It got really for a while.
And I just had no idea how I was going to do it. But after that voice,
for months, we had no idea.
I would say at least a year and a half at least. But after that voice said, get up, and I started, I don't even know how, like there's black parts of that, where I can't remember, months at a time during that time.
Yeah. Like I remember going shopping with you for your grandmother's funeral.
Yeah. Wait, did we? Oh, I don't remember that.
I think we bought your ex-husband because he was going to go with you. But I remember leaving a jacket. I remember leaving work because you were so upset. And I had to tell my boss, I was like, hey, she just got divorced. Her grandma just died, who basically raised her. Like, I'm coming with you there. I remember some stuff in the house.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when we started pole dancing.
Yeah.
And I remember we practiced routine. But yeah, a lot of it's missing.
Yeah. Because I just couldn't, but it was that turning point of.
But it was, and this is me watching it. Like, it was so soul deep.
Yeah.
Like the pain you were feeling.
Yeah.
It was impossible not to feel it.
Yeah.
It felt like my insides were cracking.
Yeah.
And it was like to walk away from you in that moment was like probably one of the hard, just because that's not who I am.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was so hard.
But it was something that you had to do.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a turning point for you. Like, even though it was small, in a way, well, not, you know what I mean? Like,
it was a turning point in a recognition of like, hey, this is not healthy for either.
Yeah. And for me, it was more of, I've got to get up.
Yeah.
I have to get up.
Do it if I was sitting there telling you, it's okay, just stay here. Like, I'll take care of you. Like, it's fine.
As fucked as this is like my generational trauma is abandonment. And I had to be completely abandoned
to show up for
me, to me finally wake up and be the one that showed up. And I have ever since.
Well, that's one of the things we talk about too, is just like being aware of those patterns. Like, we brought up like those voices. So now, like, and I will tell you the night and day of how you handle now.
Yeah.
Because like back then, like, we joke like the world was ending, but
Right.
it was.
It was.
A lot of people thought it was. Like, not just us. Like, the pandemic was happening.
Yeah.
Stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And like your extreme reactions
Yeah.
were like dialed up to 2000.
It was like I had no regulation. I had none.
Everything was like, I mean, like someone at the grocery store could have told you they didn't have plastic bags.
And I
think
would
you
have
like either screamed bloody murder or cut them. Like,
yeah. Like I was ready to
like
go.
hemorrhaging emotions.
Yeah. It was
And
awful.
it was just because you had to get it out too.
Yeah. But I was stripped from everything that was comfort,
Well, and it's funny that you kind of talk about too at the beginning where you were like, I had it. I had the marriage, I had the house, I had the job, I had the 2 kids, I had the white picket fence. And then like all of a sudden I'm my mom, and it's like vanity is like something God will humble you on real.
Yep.
Like ego,
Yep.
he does not play.
Yep.
And I think that's funny because I'm like, no, let me show you who I am. I'm this perfect person. And then God's like, try and cut a lemon.
Yeah. Yes. Love that. I mean, but I mean, so I think it was building blocks. I built on to that sense. And I think that you're doing the same thing. I think that I
think we're in that. I feel like you're a little farther along just because of the divorce. They forced you into it, whereas I'm kind of like picking and choosing and taking my sweet time.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that you're doing that. I think that you're getting it pretty hard.
The health stuff is definitely really, really hard because, like you said, somebody can tell you conceptually what something's going to be like.
Yeah. No.
And then when it happens, they're like, this is not what I thought.
Yeah. It's like the doctor saying, hey, this is going to feel like pressure. No, it's going to hurt like fuck.
Well, and that's kind of what it was like of, hey, you're going to get sicker before you get better. Like, it's part of the process.
Yeah, that's
and you're
awful.
Like, okay, I'm going to have the sniffles. I'm going to have a headache. Maybe body
you're going to feel like dying.
No, I was projectile vomiting. My husband had to change our bed.
Yeah.
Like, because I couldn't get to the toilet.
Yeah.
Like, it was awful. And it's like when you're in those moments and also trying to heal, you don't have the discipline anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you're stripped to bare bones.
Yeah.
Of like, all you got is God. All you got is your faith. All you got is your spirituality because there's no one else coming.
Yeah.
And that part to me is like, because I joke with you all the time of like I'll call my mom at like 2 a.m. and be like, Mom, can you come sleep on my couch? Because I'm like, not okay.
Yeah.
I'm just not okay.
Yeah.
And she said something to me the other day that, because I was like, I just feel like the devil's after me. Like, all these voices, like, it just feels so heavy. And, keep in mind, you're also throwing up.
Yeah.
So I'm sobbing, I'm like hiccuping, and I'm like, I just like need something. Like, I just need someone, you know what I mean? And so but I was telling her like all these feelings of like, I just feel like the devil's like behind my shoulder, like it just feels heavy. And she was like, I'm coming over. And I'm like, Mom, you don't need to come over. Like, I can't have my mom hold my hand. Like, I'm 37 years old. And she's like, it's not about holding your hand. It's about there is like, I can't even remember how she said it because it made me tear up. It was about you're stronger with numbers. Like, we're like referring to like spiritual warfare and things like that. It's like, yeah, you are going through some physical ailments, but to deny the fact that there's a spiritual war around us is just, naivety at this point.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I'm showing up to pray for you. And like, that broke me. So I was just like, that was one of those things where now I'm getting emotional.
It's okay.
It was just one of those things where it was just like, you're right, it's not me. Like, there is more going on. And it kind of pushed me out of myself in a way of like, we can get self-centered real quick.
Oh, for sure.
We can be like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Nobody's ever had anything worse happen. Like, the world is ending. And it kind of pushes you back out of like, no, God's fighting for you.
Yeah.
Just as hard as Satan is. Sure. And you already know who's going to win. So it's just like, maybe calm down for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe take a breath and be like, okay.
Zoom out.
Yeah.
We like to zoom in a lot. We just zoom out.
Like 150% zoomed in.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm the only one with this actual problem.
And
it's not the thing.
So I mean, another thing so now I feel like, okay, so with the divorce and, all the things, I had to rely on me. I had to, fully rely on me. I had to go through the ultimate abandonment and all that kind of stuff. Because, like I said in the dating episode, he started dating pretty early. And I mean, whoa, I feel like that was
a kick in the pants.
Well, I think that was the thing that
no offense to him, obviously, but from a female perspective, you were supposed to be the only one ever.
Yeah. And which probably doesn't make sense to anybody because I was the one that divorced him, but it
you
was
can still have feelings.
Yeah. And so But again, it was all of these things that were reinforcing the fact that I am alone.
Mm-hmm.
And being alone was the thing that was the scariest for me growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I was alone, then I didn't know, like there was no purpose.
I feel like I'm going through that now
Mm-hmm.
because I am like becoming to the point of like I don't want to be like I'm becoming overly codependent.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just so overwhelmed with the emotions that I
Yeah.
don't know what to do with because
Yeah.
I'm used to regulating them on other people, and how I regulate them on other people do not work on me.
I kind of feel like at some point, and I know that this sounds weird, but I don't know another way to explain it. But I kind of feel like God was getting tired of my shit. And so when I heard that voice of get up,
Mm-hmm.
there was no looking back after
Yeah.
that. At that point, you know, it was podcasts, it was spirituality, it
Mm-hmm.
was all of these things. And I could have done that any other time in my life, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
because what I was 35, 36 when this was going on. And I mean, what, 35, 36 years, I could have done any of these things, you know, but I felt like I had surrendered and I had given up everything that I was in at that time and everything that I had grown up to be in my 35, 36 years and had to let somebody else take the wheel essentially. And so, and it's been that way ever since.
And you, like, you know, everybody's like, have faith. Like, you weren't given the option.
No,
That's all you get.
that's
Is
all you
faith.
get. That's it. That's all you have.
There's nothing else.
Yeah.
There's crying, there's screaming,
How I
or
made
there's
it,
faith.
you know, how I made it to now. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I mean, like I said, I can't remember half of it. I have no idea. I mean, there was decisions. I made dangerous decisions for myself, you know.
Showing up at your house in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Just making sure you were still okay.
Yep.
Because you had stopped talking to me and texting me.
And I just and I think that it got that way for a little bit for you because when I started being like realizing it's my sovereignty that I've got to really make strong foundations for, I didn't really understand that that's what was going on. I do now. And so I wasn't able to verbally be like, "Hey, this is what I think is going on and this is what I need." I was just I mean, I was at the point where I was like, I just have to be okay. And this direction feels okay.
Yeah.
And wasn't checking in with anybody or anything because I just had to make it to the next breath.
I think it's interesting what you said about sovereignty, about how you had to be okay with yourself, because that just kind of triggered something for me. And I think the struggle for me finding out who this person is that I want to be now is that I'm still looking so much to the world. Does that make sense? Of like, it's shoved down your throat about you're supposed to be this independent woman, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be soft, you're supposed to be all these things. And it's like, what if I don't want to be any of those things?
You don't have to be.
And so taking that back of just being like, I actually don't want to conform.
Yeah.
From a people pleaser, like it's awful.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
I people
I'm
please.
mentally.
I people please to keep people in my life. So I mean, like I was the ultimate manipulator in that way.
Oh, 100%.
And so,
which is so funny that you say that, because when you think about it, like when you truly think about people pleasing, like we're all liars. Like we're all liars.
Yeah. Like
We are. Like the CIA should come get us because we are trained on manipulation. We can read your body language like nobody's business. I can tell you when the mood shifts. I know when your eye twitches. Like you don't have to speak.
And I know
because I'm
so
different. In tune to body language because my job is to make sure you have a great experience.
I can tell you from experience getting to a point where I'm always going to know. I think that I'm always going to know that. I'm always going to be hyper aware and things like that.
100%.
But I have come to a point where I don't allow feelings to be attached to it.
I'm now where like the anger is funneling the manipulation. And that's why I'm like, I need to calm down. Like I have to step back within myself and just be, because I'm just so mad.
Yeah.
Like not even at anybody, at everybody.
Yeah.
Feeling of like, I need vindication or whatever. And it's just like, this
that's the
biggest,
that's the biggest emotion that was suppressed for you. And so that's why it's coming out, is because it's so big in there.
Well, anger is powerful. Sadness
for sure
feels like weakness. So why wouldn't you rather be angry than sad?
Well, you're Aries rising. Here we are. I mean, and it's Aries season. Heavens.
Which you'd think would make it easier.
No, it sets you on fire, girl.
From the inside.
But
I think like what you said too of like, and I just lost it. So we can actually move on.
With the manipulation of being able to manipulate.
Yeah, I think I think just in like recognizing it about yourself, I think that's where I'm at right now is that I've kind of put pause on any changes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how about you just watch and observe yourself? Because there's probably a lot about you that you like.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot about you that survived the trenches with you that you're like, this girl's got some grit. This girl's got some resilience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm hilarious. So we wouldn't want that to go
Absolutely.
away.
No.
But I think it's just much more I'm at this place where I'm just like observing behaviors of myself, of other people, kind of like what I told you when I became a mom that I did. And I don't know if it's one of my little tisms that I do, but I like to just observe people, and then things that I like about people or traits that I like, then I kind of adopt them. I don't know if that's healthy or not. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that, I mean, you learn things from different people, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even still with like you and I, like phrases, words or things that we say on the constant, like each of us pick up.
yeah.
So I'm kind of doing that, but with like personality traits.
But I think that discernment, though.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I'm at in that
Yeah.
observation period of like I'm shopping.
Yeah, why not?
Is
I
it
mean, why
weird to
not?
shop for a new personality?
No.
I feel like it's interesting
As long as
talking
it's
to you about it.
authentic.
Well, that's what I feel like is interesting talking to you about it because you're so comfortable in yourself and who you are. And I'm kind of still just kind of figuring out who that is.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I had to go through that too.
But it's just
It's
one of those, like,
uncomfortable.
how did you watch people, or did you just decide from yourself, or did you just take like, I know you listen to, you're big on podcasts and
Yeah.
like taking those things in and just like reflection and then being like, okay, this is what that looks like when I output it.
I think that it was more of like, I mean, I listen to people like Mel Robbins and things like that. And there were some episodes that I was like, yeah, where I played it because the title was like, oh, yeah, that's me all the way. But then I started listening and I was like, oh, that's not me at all. And then there were some that I really liked it, but I only took half of what they said. I didn't agree with what, but I gave myself recognition of that isn't right for me, and that's okay. And I don't have to take that, even though this whole episode is about this, but this is the only things that really resonated with me. So I'm going to take that, but I can leave the rest.
I think I'm doing it.
Okay. I mean, there's not right or wrong.
Yeah, I just like when you were saying that out, I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm picking, choosing a new personality.
Well, yeah. I mean,
but again, like with the intent to heal, and I'm like, wait, I'm not trying to heal anything at all. I'm trying to cover it up with a new personality.
Oh, don't do that.
And that's why I was like, whoa. Like when you said that, I'm glad I asked you that because that's exactly what would have happened.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
It's just, no, it's okay. I mean, and that might be a people pleasing thing where you think that you have to take it all. It all has to be this way. It all has to,
I have no idea where that came from because you would think about it of like, oh, I'm like choosing who I want to be. And then I'm like kind of healing and growing. But it's like, no, I literally was like just building a new me. Like,
yeah, but what you said though is that, you when you do things, you do it big and you have to do it right. So it's like you're attaching to a thought or a personality trait, and then you're digging so far into it and concentrating on just that. You don't have to take it all. Just take the pieces.
I think you hit it on the head, but like tweak just a little bit. Like take the personality, but like that personality will become natural from the healing.
Yeah.
Versus like, let me just adopt this personality.
No, it just comes natural. You don't have to have it all decided. It literally, that's the one thing that I like. It's like one less thing that I have to do.
I feel like this is just going to lead to like a bunch more crying.
That's okay.
And it's going to be so gross.
It won't always, because remember, I think that I told you here recently.
So bummed out. I was like, man.
I'm doing it wrong. But remember I told you recently where I was like, I feel like I should be crying right now, but I just don't feel like it. Like, and that's not me, I will absolutely go.
Of the two of us, you are a crier over your feelings. I'm a crier over sad movies, not over my feelings.
Yeah.
I have to cry over other people's emotions. I very rarely can cry over my own, which is something you are able to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just because I have to get it out, because once I get it out, it's done.
Which I feel the same get it out sensation.
Yeah.
But I can't do it on my own. And I think that's where it then manifests into that anxiety. I need somebody here. I have to have,
well, maybe you're just fixating on that. Like maybe that's what it is that I have to get this out. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you just wait for it to organic. Don't shove it down.
Yeah.
But like, maybe it's just not the time.
Like it needs to get out. In that moment, it's like that skin crawling sensation of like, you're almost to the point where like, am I going to throw up or am I going to pass out? Or am I going to bawl my eyes out?
Yeah.
And so it's one of those of like coming back from that, and that like legitimately, like I'm 16 all over again. Like since January.
Well, I think that kind of goes with the generational trauma once you're
Yeah.
healing it. Like you go
Like
back.
I'm fully.
Well, like I said, when I first started this
Yeah.
I went back to being 6 years old.
Yeah.
And I have grown up since. And I
Mhm.
think that at this point, I don't know, I think that I'm late teens, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of going
As far
into
as like
adulthood.
where your healed history is.
Yeah, like
Yeah. I would agree with that because there was a bunch of stuff that happened when I was younger that ended up being very public in our church, and it was, you know, very like my parents were shunned, we were shunned. It ended up being a whole thing. And I was like immediately put into therapy for that.
Yeah.
Like immediately. And then the rest of it didn't really resonate until I got into like my first physical relationship with I had my first boyfriend, and
Yeah.
then like started getting all these flashbacks, all these things that were happening, and then kind of went back into therapy then. So like otherwise I feel like I would be like at that 6-year-old little girl type thing, but instead I'm like, they did a lot of push to like get me to be stuck at 16, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, like when I was in boarding schools, I was in private schools, and I had a ton of anxiety, and my mom would have to drive up on their weekend. And then I ended up getting put on antidepressants and getting put in, you know, therapy again. And so I'm like, I wonder if that is where I'm still stuck, because like we're almost verbatim reliving. Like she's showing up in my house in the middle of the night to hold my hand, just like she was driving up, you know, 4 hours to take care of me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and I feel like you're really good at this about recognizing the emotion or the memory. Whereas like there's so many that are missing still. And some of this is trauma. Some of this, I don't know if we fully went into it, but I found out I had mold poisoning this year. And so I have lost a lot of memories, like recent memories,
right,
just from those issues. And so like some of them are still coming back, but like sometimes I struggle with dreams versus reality.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're really good about like, you know, I'm 6 years old and this is the moment I felt abandoned. And this is what that core memory is bringing up for me, where I'm like, where did you get that? Do you have is there a table of contents?
I'm telling you, like that's, I mean, that too is why I really like, you know, because I know I hate even saying that I'm a spiritual girly because I don't do it the way that TikTok and all that kind of stuff does it. I use astrology as a way to stay connected to God, but also astrology is huge on self-awareness and self-growth. Like helps you give direction, because that's a thing you got to think about. Somebody who's been completely abandoned their entire life, how the hell am I supposed to know what direction I'm going in? And so that's the reason why I feel,
or how do you trust yourself?
Yeah, how do you try? And well, and that's the thing, is that is what my purpose is to ultimately trust myself and to get to that point. Do I always now? No, but I always come back. I come back to myself. It's really freaking hard to do that and everything. It's not for the weak by any means.
No.
But yeah, and so I'm able to, when I feel something, I'm like, okay, where am I at?
Yeah.
Where is this, you know, why do I feel this way? Like what parallel is this for me? What, you know, what trauma point is this hitting for me? And then I'm able to be like, okay, it's this. Well, is this a situation I need to be in? What is how can I make myself safe? Not expect someone else to make me safe, not go into a relationship with somebody, not stay in a marriage with somebody about it, not conform to what other people think that I should be or say, or, you know, whatever. No, like, how do I feel that I need to proceed from here so I feel better?
This is gonna get real, like, because I think it's literally gonna mirror kind of not the divorce in your situation, but I think I'm gonna be put in that same spot of like, it's just you, and like, what does that look like now? You know what I mean? Because there isn't that fear. We talked about this a lot, about you don't trust your intuition, or had not at that time.
Right.
Like that's something you're growing into and over practice. Like you're trusting yourself more. Where I've always trusted my intuition, and so like I've never doubted that I wouldn't finish or complete or, you know, do anything like that. It's always just been like assumed. But then like the aftermath almost is like worse than the like whatever the trial or the tribulation for me, because I'm never like, and again it's one of those like, well, you're surviving, you're not thriving, like you're in it obviously. But for me, like once I'm out of it, it's so much worse. Like I've added the what ifs now. I've added all the extras that could have, would have, should have. And you're just like, these are all like unrelated. Why are you even talking about
that? But at the end of the day, the thing, how I got through that was, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
I don't know what's coming next, but I made it through the most difficult things that some people don't even, they'll go their entire life not ever, you know, thankfully having to ever deal with. And, you know, things like that. And I got through and I'm still here.
Yeah.
There is a reason that I'm still here.
Do you feel like that on days when like you don't have that mentality, that it's harder for you to get back to it or easier now?
Hard for me to answer that because I no longer have days like I don't ever have thoughts like that anymore.
Yeah.
It took it took a while for me to get there. But, you know, even when these things show up and things like that where I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this. Like I have no idea how this is going to
You're
happen.
like, it's just gonna be fine.
It's just it is.
Yeah.
And then it always ends up being.
Yeah.
Does it look and I have started to now not picture what that ending looks like. Like, okay, well, what is the perfect way for this to end up? No, it's just going to work out. How is it going to work out? I don't know, but it is.
Yeah.
There is a reason that I'm still here. I was in, you know, I died 3 times in childbirth.
Yeah.
I was hit head on, you know, in a car accident, you know, and blown away with an airbag. It was awful.
Yeah.
You know, all these things. Like I have a purpose. I know that I have a purpose. And also, if you just look at the silliness of it, where it's like, I don't believe that we live in a world where I've gone through the things that I have for it just to end like this.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like, there's no way. It doesn't make sense. That makes no sense at all. And then I'm so good for myself in my spirituality where it's like, if this is an end, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like I got what I needed because where I'm at right now, I'm still okay.
That sounds awful, honestly.
It is. It
but
sounds
gave me anxiety hearing you say those things out loud.
It does, but I there's something and there will come a time for you, but again, you're still shopping.
Yeah.
I'm not shopping.
Yeah.
And so it's like I've got my fundamentals down, my new fundamentals that are more healthy, that are stronger.
Well, then too, like this shopping, like honestly, I did it with, you know, like being a mom and stuff like that. But this shopping, I'm doing it so different even than I did for like the motherhood stuff because like I'm a balls to the walls. Like we are all in. We have an idea. We're doing it today, this afternoon in 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas this time I'm like, take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Well, you have to.
And like I'm not completely taking my time because I've like given myself till like graduation.
Well, you have to though.
But like I don't have it. Like I don't have it in me anymore. I have to be realistic about what I'm actually capable of doing because it is the worst mental overload for me.
But you rephrase that too because that's what is kindest for you.
Yeah.
That's you being kindest.
Yeah.
The kindest version that you can be
and
for
it's
yourself.
like changing the narrative of like I have to instead I get to.
You get to.
Yeah. I have to cook myself food because I literally can't. It's like, no, you get to make your food. That is fresh.
Yeah.
You know what's in it. You know it's not going to kill you. You know you're not going to be hurting from it.
Yeah. I've had to do that this weekend where I'm like, I get to do this.
Yeah.
Like my mind immediately wanted to go, I have to. No, I get to do this.
Yeah.
I get to go do this. I get, you know, I was so stressed all week because it's just been a balls of the wall week. And it was for anybody, because I'm sure that other people that had a balls of the wall week were like, my God, I have to do this. Oh my God, I have to do that. And I have to I changed the narrative on myself. I get to do this. I get to go and I get to see my little girl be in her recital. I get to go and see my little girl have soccer. I get to, you know, do all these things. And that's it, as simple and almost stupid as it sounds, but it is what it is.
We kind of talked about this next part in like prayer group a little bit because we kind of talked about just our parents and their upbringings and kind of the brush it off mentality that we kind of grew up with.
Yeah.
And this version of kids, like, you know, we're healing while our kids are watching. And I think our moms, I'm going to speak for my mom. I think our moms didn't know what healing. Well, I can speak for your mom because I don't feel like that was a conversation. I mean, like
for sure
food
not.
Allergies weren't even a thing.
Right. Yeah. No.
So, I mean, I don't think like it was very much of like passed down on us that women were to be pitted against women. We were to compare ourselves. We were to, you know, hold the measuring tape and things like that.
My mom and her sister were pitted against each other.
Yeah, which is awful. And I feel like now raising girls specifically as well, and then healing in front of them. What does that look like? Because I know that you and I kind of struggle with the mom guilt as well of like, we're going to be the reason that our kid needs therapy. But on the flip side of it, like they're going to go through.
That's where I am not apologetic for being imperfect in front of them.
Yeah.
I'm not apologetic for being overly honest with them. You know, I mean, I had a conversation with my 12-year-old last night where I said, I've never had a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I've literally never had a 12-year-old. And the only example I have is when I was 12 years old. And you're sure as shit not doing the things I was doing when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that type thing. And I tell them all the time, you know, I'm working on this. I'm working on, you know, I feel this way and I'm so frustrated about this, whatever it is, you know, and I feel this way. And I was like, I know that it's going to get better, but I don't know how it's going to work out, but it just is. And I need you to just hang tight with me. Yeah. What I need you to do is I need you to communicate with me. So like with me, you know, when I get, because I control gives me structure. It gives me that, like, I can depend on, and it's not, it's all false.
Yeah.
That control is all false. And so I always tell my kids, I need you to interrupt me. If I'm being like, if I'm making you feel a certain way, I need you to interrupt me. I might not agree with you, but your voice also matters in this. Yeah. And that was the opportunity. Those are opportunities that were never given to me. No one ever said, hey, you know, what's going on with you? Or like, hey, do you want to live here with this person? Hey, do you want to move again? Hey, do you want to do this? Yeah. You know, and all that kind of stuff, which I may not have had the choice, but at least somebody to at least explain to me what was going on. Yeah. So I explained to my kids, you know, I was the one that divorced your dad. Yeah. You know, I mean, because it's a point of contention and all that kind of stuff, obviously. Yeah. You know, they've seen, you know, their father decline and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they saw me decline for a time. And I'm just really honest with them. The one thing is, and I think that I have started to say to you, this is all temporary. How this feels right now is temporary. This situation is temporary. Yeah. What's not temporary and what's permanent is you.
I think, yeah. And I think too, as far as like our conversations, when it comes to healing, specifically around apologizing, I feel like for me personally, sorry, Mom, that was something that, yeah. And I feel like I take that on for myself of like an apology in the sense of like, let me maybe rephrase that. Okay. So
we like actions. We don't like words.
Yes and no. I would say in this specific instance now, because my mom and I have a lot of conversations about, you know, she jokes that she sent me to therapy and I joke that she did. And
sorry.
Or she jokes she's the reason I'm in therapy and I joke that she is the reason I'm in therapy. But I think no one taught them not to be defensive. Yeah. Everything had to have a reason, everything. And I don't, now that I am a mother, I did have some like, you know, resentment towards it, because instead of just being like, oh, well, I'm sure I messed you up, you're going to talk to your therapist about that. Like, I'm sorry that I didn't know what I didn't know. And I'm so sorry. I was trying my best and trying to keep it from you and it still hit you. And that's on me. And that's always going to be me. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. Yeah. Like, that would have gone mild. Yeah. You know what I mean? And not to say that it's like too little too late, but like we've just grown, you know, like the conversation is different now. And, you know, things have changed. And I don't know that it's even necessary, but it's just one of those things of like apologizing as a mom. That was something that was like really stuck with me. That was like, if I do something, like I'm owning up to my kids, because my kids have to own up to it as themselves as well. But like, I'm with you of like, hey, you keep saying sorry to me, don't say sorry to me, change the behavior.
But see, that's what I never got. I always got, I'm sorry. I always got like, I feel horrible that it's, but then it just continued. And so it was just kind of like, so when people even say sorry to me now, I'm just kind of like, stop doing things to be sorry, you know, like, and that stems from my thing, because I got that my entire life. I'm so sorry that things are the way that they are, pitied and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like, stop
from
it.
Like external or from
like from external.
Oh, from your,
and you know, and mom. So yeah. From my mom, okay. It was constantly like, it was always, I'm sorry. It was always, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was always this, you know, and, you know, going into this podcast, I knew that we were going to be going into things like this. And so, you know, I have a relationship with my mom that's,
cordial.
It is cordial, but it's also it's still very guarded. And I mean, and I don't. Guarded isn't even a good word. It's just more of this is what works for me. This is what I'm okay with. I'm not okay with any more, and I'm not okay with any less. This is what I'm okay with, and will it grow into something else? I don't know. Right now, I'm just that's where I'm at. Where it's just I don't know, and I don't feel it necessary to project of whether that's going to work out or not.
Yeah.
But the one thing that is different with me and my kids is like when I tell them I'm sorry, whatever it is that I'm sorry about, I truly change it.
Yeah.
I truly change it. And if I fuck up, it's I have fucked up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get that. It was just a constant like, so people saying that they're sorry and all that kind of stuff, like it literally, like my ears go mute because.
Well, even still too, like along that line of like saying you were going to do something and then not do it. And instead of just being like, well, I'm the parent and you're a freeloader.
And see, I've never looked at my kids that way.
Yeah, it's me either. And so it's much more of like, you know what, you're right. I did say that. And that did not happen.
Yeah.
And we're going to figure it out, or mommy dropped the ball today and I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
We're going to fix it immediately. Like, do you want to do it now? We can't do it now. Can we schedule it for here? Is that okay with you? Like,
yeah. And all week, and God help me remember this, all week, my little girl wanted spaghetti and meatballs. That was not on the menu, of like the things that I had gotten and, pre-made and all this kind of stuff. And she kept out, and I even told her, I was like, well, we'll go to the store tomorrow and we'll go and get it. Well, then she got sick. And so, and we had, soccer that night and all that. And like, so in my head, like never, so I never made it. And she brought it up on Friday night. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, baby, I was like, I am so sorry. I was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, next time that you guys are with me, that'll be the first thing that I'm going to make and everything. So please, God, help me remember that.
An alarm.
I know. And so, but it's stuff, like that. Now,
let's pop back to your mom for a second, because I feel like this is really important. A lot of people don't know your mom was kind of out of your life for a little bit, has been reintroduced. Yeah. And you kind of created some boundaries. Yeah. How, because at the end of the day, that's your mom. No. But in a maternal role,
I don't look at that way.
See, that's kind of where I was going. So how do you set that boundary? Like, does she feel the same? And obviously you don't have to go into this if you don't want to.
No, I don't mind.
No. I mean, like, that's it. Like, kind of what I was talking about at the beginning is where I'm going with this, of like, hey, I'm trying to show up in a different way, but other people still are expecting me to show up in an old way. Yeah. So there was probably some expectation not intentional on both of your part, what that relationship looked like. Right. And now it is what it is. So is that hard, setting that boundary with someone who is supposed to be your like go-to, because I mean, obviously your version of mothers and fathers is very different from my version of mothers and fathers. Yeah. So I feel like if myself in that position, I would kind of want to go back into old patterns, old behaviors, because it was what I would know. And I would hope that I would be aware enough within myself to understand that it wasn't healthy. No. But I imagine it is hard, because at the end of the day, like, you kind of had that connection, or was it never that maternal connection for you? I'm specifically going back on this because you said that
it's hard to explain, but I'm going to try.
Well, I was specific to a specific point where you said you were raising your mom. Yeah. So having that relationship,
I stopped raising her.
Yeah. But what was the expectation from her? Like, was that hard to kind of set and put in your foot, or do you not want to talk about it?
I think that's what's to come for you. Oh. Is I didn't care. Yeah. I could, when I reconnected with her, I was prepared to walk away again if I needed to. Yeah. I was prepared, like, if she answered the phone and was loaded, I was ready to be like, all right, well, see that nothing's changed and that's okay. That's her, this is her life, that type of thing. Again, I know it sounds like a crazy person going back to astrology, but that's one thing. One of my gifts with astrology is being able to put the pieces together. Is being able to put the mystery together. Give me all the pieces, put it out on the table, and I can put it together. And I went on a 6-7 year hiatus from her. Yeah. But the person that went back to her was not the same person. Yeah. She feels that now. I know she does.
Do you feel like she was the same person? Because I mean, like, honestly, how could you be? Really? Yeah. Yeah. Like, not at all changed?
No, I don't think so.
It's interesting because I feel like just from time alone, people kind of evolve and change.
Some people don't.
That's interesting.
And that's okay.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. What you aren't changing, you're choosing.
Yeah. And I mean, and you know, but at the same time, but I understand why.
Yeah.
I understand.
Which I feel like is where previously we both get suckered in to these relationships that don't have boundaries or become that codependency is because even people treating me badly, I understand where they're coming from. And that almost allows the forgiveness for the behavior.
Once you get set in who you are, how other people feel about, like, it's the ultimate anti people pleasing. You don't, it's not that you don't care, like you're heartless.
It just doesn't change anything about
it
who
just
you
doesn't
are.
change anything about where I'm at. It doesn't change my thought process. I'm so where I'm at and who I am and my mindset, and you know,
which is so interesting because and I'm going to say this, talk about crazy, when I'm wearing a personality, I don't feel it.
No,
because it's not
why
really
would
me.
you? It's not you.
Yeah,
like you have no emotions attached to that. Yeah,
there's nothing,
it makes
and so
sense.
it's so easy to slip back into because then there's no emotion. But then when I come out of it, I'm now calling my mom at 2 a.m. because I can't regulate myself, and it's just like, where's the
and so there's things that I don't accept. I mean, there's things I don't. So you know, another thing that I would do is I would, you know, growing up, and I would always go to my mom about my problems, you know, and things like that. I don't. She is probably the last person I'll call if I have a problem, and I don't mean that in a mean way. It's just.
Do you feel any sadness towards that?
No,
because it just is what it is.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, but I don't need that. I have you. I have, you know, I have you. I have another friend. You know, but
you have all 18 of my personalities.
But most important, I have me now.
Yeah.
Which is what's different.
Yeah.
Is because I'm the first point of contact now.
Yeah.
She's not.
Yeah.
I'm the first point of contact. No one else is. I mean, you're close first.
Appreciate it.
Sometimes you do. But
sometimes it's just a really long minute sigh.
But yeah. But and I mean, sometimes like it is like going to a mother because I'm like, God, I know she's about to be pissed. Where I've even said to you, where I was like, I really didn't want to tell you this, or I'm having a really hard time not telling you this.
It's so funny though because I already know.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
yeah.
It'll get too quiet if you know what I mean. Like, I'll be like,
you know, I think I'd started to say is, you know, when we started in this podcast, and you know, I was talking to my mom. And I had told her, I said, look, you know, she said, I am so sorry. I'm never going to forgive myself. The reason that she's never going to forgive herself. And that's why she's going to stay where she's at.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. But that's not for me to push her out of. And so I gave her what I can, which is I don't sit here and I don't have this resentment towards her. I don't have this like, oh, you know, she's terrible person, all this kind of stuff. All of that had to happen for me to have the life that I'm supposed to have.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go through the trials that I'm having to go through for a purpose, for a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
I am where I'm at right now because of the things that I went through. And I always tell her, you played your role.
Yeah.
That you were assigned to play that role and you played your role.
Yeah.
That, you know, so it is what it is. I'm not going to say
like black and white way to look at it, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, but that's what it is. She played her role.
Yeah.
Now it's my turn to play my role that I have. You know, now that I found myself, it's now time for me to play my role. Having all of these experiences and things like that shaped me. Picking what works for me, what can stay, and what can go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. And you know, with her. And she was like, no, I can never live with that. And I'm just, and I haven't told her, I mean, I obviously have now, but it's just like, but that's why you're going to stay where you are. That's why you are going to end up dying, having the life that you have. And that's, I mean, and so that maybe is another gift that she's given me is perspective. And I'm not doing that. I'm not going to stay that way. You know, I'm not going to stay in situations and in a life that I am miserable in. I'm just not, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So let's start introducing other people and new people and all this kind of stuff. And that's where I'm at is I'm having to now
rebuild
my village and figure out who I am in these certain situations and relationships and, you know, parenting and, you know, things like that. Am I going to get it perfect? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
but I'm going to try my best, and having to stay true to myself and not go back on vices. It's getting easier.
Yeah.
It's getting a whole lot easier. I've set myself up pretty well. I've actually done really well for myself to have, like, you know, affirmations and things like that work for me. I do my tarot cards, I do my astrology, and, you know, things like that. And those things ground me.
Yeah. What are some other tools for healing that we can do? Do you do journaling?
No.
I have
Actually, yes, through you.
Oh.
I mean, I do.
You just like type it out.
That's what it
I have
is.
a friend from high school that journaled in high school, and I want to say she just has like books upon books, and I always envied that.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's evidence.
I agree.
That's evidence, and for me,
only you would need that.
Right? I mean, it's evidence.
I would say I like the idea of like kind of having like verbal diarrhea and just getting it out. I like that idea, but then I would probably take it a step further and make it like specific. I'm not an everyday journaling person, but I will say there are situations like when your brain is just overloaded that it's so helpful to just word vomit it out on paper and then maybe burn it and like cleanse yourself or whatever it is. But I do see that there are some benefits in that, but that is not one that is really mine.
Yeah, no, I mean, it isn't for me. And I understand that it does work for some people. I write down my dreams so I can interpret them later. But I mean, the thing, like, that's why I'm big on walking. I'm big on
exercise is massive, which I think is part of my holdup right now is that I haven't been in a gym since October.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much mentally that was keeping me together. Just giving me an outlet, you know, for the anger that's overwhelming right now. But self-awareness, I honestly think sometimes our problems is we are too self-aware, and then
I'm sure that my therapist, like during the divorce, was pissed as hell at me because I just told him what was going on. Now, I did do EMDR, highly recommend, by the way. I did EMDR with him, but I mean, I guess he was just more of a unbiased party that I was like, this is
used as a sounding board.
Where I was like, I know this about myself. I know that getting there is going to require this, you know, kind of thing. And he was just kind of there. Okay, see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks so much for paying me.
Right.
This is kind of what you did, I would say 100% is like reparenting yourself. Like you were like, okay, my parents did it their first time. That got me here.
Yeah.
Let's see how much farther I can get myself.
And I've gotten myself a whole lot further.
I would agree. Yeah.
A whole lot
I mean,
further.
just in the time that I've known you, like you pretty much become a completely different person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say so much of like your personality is different, but how you react to things is 100%.
My internal is different. For sure.
Your monologue and everything is not so.
Yeah. And so it makes me not be so intense externally, although my face always looks very intense.
It's gorgeous.
The guy that I'm dating, he's like, you look so pissed off. I'm like, it's my RBF. I can't change. I was born with this face. I think we're going to make this
like a part two.
So maybe we
like,
should.
Well, y'all, we will see you in part 2.
Yeah. See you next week.
Love you, mean it.
Bye.